It was just past midnight in the heart of downtown Denver. The streets were quieter than usual, maybe because of the rain, or maybe because the city was holding its breath. I was sitting in my modest apartment, nursing a cup of black coffee, and staring out the rain-speckled window, thinking about ghosts nobody else could see. I'm not the man I used to be. Not the soldier, not the hero, not the ghost everyone tried to forget. I'm just a 62-year-old man who once walked through hell wearing a uniform, now trying to walk through life without looking over his shoulder. Then came the knock. 3 sharp. Raps on my front door. Not the kind of knock you expect at this hour. Not the polite neighbor checking in kind. This was deliberate, purposeful, like someone weighing me up before deciding whether to come in or leave me to rot in silence. I didn't move for a moment, just listened. Rain hitting the pavement. The faint hum of a car engine down the street. Then the knock again. 3 raps. Precise. Unyielding. I put down my coffee and walked to the door. My fingers trembled, though not from fear, but from the memories the knock dredged up. I cracked the door open just enough to see a man standing there. Mid-30s. Sharp eyes, dark coat soaked from the rain. No smile. No greeting. Just one word. Marshall. That was my old call sign. The name I earned in places I can't tell you about. A name that means nothing to the people here in Denver, but everything to those who still remember. Who sent you? I asked, voice low. He looked past me into the dim apartment and said, "It's time." Asterisk. What followed that night was the beginning of a nightmare I thought I'd left behind decades ago. It was a message, a warning, a summons to face the secrets buried deep inside the shadows of my past. Secrets that some powerful people wanted to stay buried forever. Over the next few days, I was drawn into a deadly game, a game where the rules had changed, but the stakes were still life or death, and I wasn't sure if I was the hunter or the hunted. If you want to know what happened next, make sure to stay with me till the end, because this story is not just about war and survival. It's about redemption, betrayal, and the harsh truths no one talks about. Asterisk perfect. Let's dive deeper. I'll keep the same narrator voice, weaving in action, emotion, and suspense, all flowing seamlessly. I closed the door gently behind the man, the one who called me Marshall. He didn't introduce himself further, didn't need to. His presence was enough. Years in covert operations taught me that sometimes silence says more than 1,000 words. He pulled out a small envelope, worn, creased, like it had traveled through hell before reaching me. I took it cautiously, my fingers brushing the faded ink of my name on the front. No notes, no instructions, he said, just a time and a place. My heart wasn't racing. It never did anymore. But something inside tightened, like a fist closing around an old scar. He turned to leave. Before he did, he paused and said, "There are eyes everywhere now, Marshall. You're not alone anymore." And then he was gone. Just like that. The next morning, Denver was waking up under a gray sky, the rain replaced by mist rolling through the streets. I sat at my kitchen table, the envelope unopened but heavy in my hand. Inside, a single sheet of paper with a date, a location, an abandoned warehouse near the river. Why now? Why after all these years? I thought about my old team, men I trusted with my life and secrets. Most dead, some disappeared. A few like me, ghosts walking the city streets, trying to bury the past beneath layers of silence. But this was different. This was a summons. Over the next few days, I prepared, not just physically, but mentally. I dusted off my old gear, a worn tactical knife, a pistol I kept hidden in a drawer, and a faded photograph of the team, smiling before everything went dark. I started watching my back again, checking every shadow, listening for footsteps that didn't belong to the city. One evening, at the warehouse, the air thick with rust and forgotten memories, I met the man who had sent the message, Langston, the only man from the old days who still had the guts to face what was coming. "Marshal," he said quietly, "it's worse than we thought." The night stretched ahead of us, filled with whispered plans, threats we barely understood, and a rising storm outside that matched the one brewing in my chest. If you're still with me, drop a like below. It keeps me going. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe to follow the story to its end. Trust me, it's worth it. Asterisk, the truth was coming. And when it did, no one would walk away the same. Asterisk, Langston's eyes scanned the dim warehouse as rain tapped rhythmically on the broken windows. The air was thick with dust, old secrets, and something new. Danger. We thought the files were destroyed, he said, voice low. But someone's got a copy. Someone with a grudge. I clenched my fists. That someone wasn't just any enemy. It was someone who knew us, knew the mission, knew me. We need to find out who before they find us, Langston continued. Because if they want to expose Widowmaker, it's not just our names on the line. It's everyone involved. Civilians, families. The weight of those words settled in the room like a fog. I remembered the mission too well, the one we buried. Deep under layers of silence, but never truly escaped. That night, we mapped out a plan. A trip to an old safe house where we hoped to uncover the first clue. The kind of place only someone in our line of work would think to use. Asterisk, I looked away from Langston, the shadows of the warehouse feeling colder than the night outside. I lost her because of that mission. I finally said, voice barely a whisper. Claire, my wife, she wasn't just collateral. She was my reason for wanting out, for wanting peace. Langston nodded slowly. I remember. Her smile haunted my memories like a ghost I could never outrun. She believed I was gone. Forever. That the war took me. But it didn't. It left me with this, I said, tapping my chest. This job. It never leaves you. Not really. The anger, the guilt, the silence, all stitched into the fabric of my being. I owe it to her, to make sure what happened doesn't happen again. To stop whoever's trying to drag us back into the fire. Langston placed a hand on my shoulder. Then we move fast. Before it's too late. Asterisk Part 2. The dead file we left Denver before dawn. Langston drove. I watched the streets. It was muscle memory at this point. Checking every alley, every rooftop, every rearview mirror. 15 years of silence didn't dull instincts like that. Our destination was a small storage facility just outside Colorado Springs. From the outside, it looked like nothing. A fenced-in row of aluminum garages, half-rusted, barely maintained. But we had keys to one of them. Keys we weren't supposed to have anymore. Inside, buried beneath a floorboard, was a box labeled Op. Raven 6, filed class red. But I already knew what it was. The dead file. It contained photos, tapes, old field, notes, and a list, names crossed out in red, one by one. Some names I hadn't heard in years. Some I didn't want to hear again. Then I saw it. Claire Donovan, her name, not as a civilian. As an asset, I froze. Langston looked over. You didn't know? She was part of it, I whispered. She was watching me. No, he said gently. She was protecting you. The room began to spin. Flashback. Sarajevo. Claire worked in diplomatic security, or so I thought. Turns out she was running logistics for our shadow ops, moving intel, covering extraction routes, rewriting reports. She was the reason the Widowmaker mission was wiped off every official record, and she died for it. An unsanctioned hit. A warning. We were never supposed to find out, but I just did. I stared at her photo. The last image I had of her, smiling at the edge of the Adriatic. Now it was part of a file labeled Containment Failures. Langston paced nearby. This isn't just about old ghosts. Someone's bringing this back with a purpose. They want us exposed. They want every name on that list to pay. I closed the box, slower than I meant to. Something inside me had shifted. She died cleaning up our mess. Now we clean up theirs. Langston nodded. Then we find who's left. If you're still watching, this is where it gets heavy. Real names, real consequences. So stay with me, and don't forget to subscribe if this story's pulling you in. There's more coming. A lot more got back in the motel room that night. We laid the list out on the bed. Only 3 names were UNCROSSED. Not mine. Langston's. And someone called. Axe code name we hadn't heard in years. Jesus, Langston muttered. You remember Axe? How could I not? I said. He was the only one crazy enough to enjoy Widowmaker. And now he's the only one not dead. I looked out the window. A storm was rolling in. Not yet, I said. But if they got Claire ... he's next. We found Axe in New Mexico ... Of course we did. No one disappears like he does. A shack built into the side of a canyon. No cell signal, no footprints for miles. It took 2 favors, 1 threat, and a dead drop just to get a location. Langston parked a half-mile out. We hiked the rest under moonlight. The desert wind howled, dust biting our faces like a warning. And then, there he was, sitting outside on a folding chair, sharpening a knife like he'd been expecting us. Marshall, he said. Langston. He didn't ask how we found him. Just nodded, motioned to the empty chairs by the fire. Figured you'd come. Figured it was time. We sat in silence for a while. Axe poured us something brown and burning . Then he said it. They're tying up loose ends. Widowmaker's leaking. They're scared. I looked him in the eye. They already got Claire. He flinched. His fingers tightened around the cup. They made it personal. I added. Axe threw the drink into the fire. The flames jumped, cracked, roared. And we end it, he growled. Langston leaned forward. You know who's behind it? Axe didn't. Hesitate. Yeah, I do. And you won't like it. He handed us a tablet. Offline. Pre-loaded . I opened it. My breath caught in my throat. On the screen, an old photo. U.S. Younger, armored, brutal. And beside us, General Royce Turner . My former CO. The man who gave us the Widowmaker mission. The man who signed the disavowal. The man who swore to our faces that none of it ever happened. Now he was sitting on a congressional intelligence panel, scrubbing the past, silencing the rest. Axe spat into the fire. He's cleaning house. Anyone with knowledge of Raven 6, of Widowmaker, he's burning the evidence, one body at a time. I stood. Where is he now? The answer, Washington, D.C., an invitation-only gala. Intelligence brass, political sharks, foreign advisors, and one wolf in a suit with blood on his hands. We were going to crash the party. We moved like we used to. Quiet, precise, invisible. Langston handled surveillance. Axe got us past security. I handled the approach. Inside the ballroom, chandeliers glowed like artificial stars. Champagne flowed. Smiles were sharp as knives. And there he was. Royce Turner. Same cold eyes. Same squared jaw. But heavier now. In body, in conscience, in consequence. He didn't see me coming. Not until I was right there. Marshall, he said, voice tightening. You shouldn't be here. You're right, I said. But neither should she. I dropped Claire's photo on the table. He stared at it, didn't blink. You made her a target, I said. And you tried to erase all of us? His jaw clenched. You don't understand the scale of what was at stake. I understand betrayal, I said, and I understand justice. He reached for his belt, a hidden panic button. Too late. Axe was behind him in a flash, pressing a suppressor to his side. No noise, Axe said softly. No speech. Just consequences. Langston slid a flash drive onto the table. Everything. The ops, the files, the kills. We leak this, your career dies faster than your conscience. Royce froze. This is what you're going to do, I continued. You're going to vanish. Quietly. You'll resign. You'll disappear. Like we had to. Or we blow the lid on the whole operation. He stared at us, then nodded once. Understood. Outside, the wind was colder. The job was done. Not with bullets, but with leverage. Not with death, but with exposure. For the first time in years, I felt something loosen in my chest. We didn't get revenge. We got closure. I returned to Denver. The apartment felt quieter than ever, but it wasn't heavy anymore. Not haunted. I put Claire's photo back on the shelf. Next to it, I placed my old unit patch. RAVEN6. Black ink, red border. The mission that wasn't supposed to exist. Now it existed in one place. My story. If you're still watching, if this story meant something to you, subscribe to the channel. Leave a like. Drop a comment below about what hit you hardest. Some stories aren't just fiction. Some stories come from shadows, and someone has to carry them. Still here, still watching, still remembering. Until next time. ****